this is Ashley.
And Megan.
And we are the Mito podcast. Today we are going to talk about quarantine and how things are the same for a lot of our Mito families, how they are different, and what we might expect for the future. Yeah. So to start, I guess we should just go over how our life hasn't changed.
Yes.
So a lot of Mito families, and I know we've said this in previous podcasts, but when you get your diagnosis, it's a lot to handle. Not just the diagnosis, but the realization of quarantine. You have to be very careful on where you go. You can't go to too many public locations that are closed in, like libraries or restaurants. You try to attend to places that are open, that are outside, where you're not closed in, and you become very equipped with cleaning, like Lysol or a spray that you can put on anything that touches, a lot of hand sanitizer, soaps, all of that kind of stuff. Megan, how are things, like, what is the same for you?
Well, yeah, I think exactly what you said. We're so used to when it comes to the flu season, and, for us, it can be November when the flu season comes a little later, or it can be as early as October. We stopped taking Troy into restaurants, which even usually when we do, unless it's too cold, we sit out on a patio. But we stopped going to, like you said, all the indoor places, and we primarily go and try to do things outdoor where there aren't a lot of other people. So that kind of lifestyle is pretty much the same, constantly, having wet ones and, making sure that my husband is a teacher, making sure that when he comes home, he completely changes. We leave the shoes outside, just all the precautions that you would take to not get the flu, because it can be, something that puts your Mito child in the hospital, or actually, unfortunately, survive from having the flu. So that is all very much the same. We're doing the same things that we did, but this is definitely on a whole different level. It's, yeah.
Right. With Angie, one thing that we also did, because she was so young, I carried her everywhere. So I made a label that I pinned onto our carrier or to her back that said, "Hey, I'm medically fragile. Please don't touch me. Please don't come coo at me. Please don't kiss me or hug me." Obviously it was much shorter than that, but it was a little poem.
It was a whole paragraph that everybody had to read.
Yeah, here, read this instructional manual before you come near my child. But I think in that sense, I think a lot of parents can relate, because when you have a newborn, people are always up in your baby's face. You're like, no, get away from me.
Yeah.
They're fragile at that state, and that just never changes for Mito kids. They stay in that fragile state. And we also would put, I did put a sign outside our front door when they came over. It was just a kind reminder to them that things are different in our household than what you might be normally used to. The sign that I put up also said, "There's a medically fragile child living here. When you enter, please wash your hands, sanitize," and of course, depending on what time of the year it was, we either ask them to leave their shoes or they can keep them on. We have animals, so most of the time I let people keep their shoes on, because I was really embarrassed by all the maybe it would get stuck to their socks. But we just made sure that everything was clean, and it gets really hard to remind people to wash their hands or to use hand sanitizer, and it would the sign kind of helped take that uncomfortableness away. So, and I still did have to remind certain people, but it wasn't as bad. It definitely took like a lot of stress off my shoulders. I knew when people walked into our house, that was it. That was our rule. If you don't want to wash your hands, don't come over.
Yeah, and Troy's teachers that come in, or his physical therapists or anything like that, like, it's, we don't have a sign, which that is an awesome idea. We just never really thought of that, but it's a constant thing. Oh, wash your hands, wash your hands. And a lot of them would remember, but sometimes, they would forget. And it feels so strange to say, oh, I need you to wash your hands. But everybody usually is always so receptive to, oh yeah, So even though you feel bad reminding them, usually people
Right.
are pretty receptive because they do not want to get your child sick.
Right. And I think for other families, I mean, I think for both of us, we've had pretty respectful people come around, but I know there's a lot of families who struggle with that, and who struggle with having to tell like the grandparents or cousins or aunts and uncles to remind them to wash, and they get a lot of fight back. Because you think, oh, I'm clean, or I already washed my hands. That's great, but do it again. Like,
yeah, exactly.
You just never know. You never know what you touch that someone else could have touched, and that kind of brings us into today, how everyone is experiencing that type of quarantine, that type of life. And I think that first, because it's been about a month and a half, a month to where everything's been going on, but a lot of people need to remember this doesn't go away for those Mito families. You are experiencing this for the first time. You're experiencing this type of life. And yes, there might be in the future, you might actually change some of the things that you do on a daily basis. So you are getting a small taste of what having that Mito diagnosis is when in relation to germs and catching a cold or a virus. How do you think this is different, like right now, than normal?
Well, I think, for us, just time frame wise, we're coming into where we would definitely start easing up on just kind of our restrictive behaviors with Troy, and being able to go to the beach and do, different things that we don't necessarily get to do for the flu season. We never really take him into grocery stores. I mean, every once in a while in the summer, which he gets super excited, which is funny. But just, the activities that we look forward to, we're definitely on lockdown from all of that. Obviously, we're in California, and they just opened up the beaches. And of course, everyone's seen all the pictures that everybody flocked to the beaches. So it's not safe for us to do anything. I mean, we take Troy for a walk around our block, and anytime someone, we see someone or a neighbor, we completely cross the street. It's just it's just like our stressful flu season time is just continuing. And now, when we think about, I've heard so many different, and, my husband and I, we read a lot of articles and things, and just different things, how this isn't really affecting kids as severely as it is other adults. And we actually were talking to Troy's Mito doctor, and he was saying how he thinks because kids do not have immunity to so many things. So when they actually, if they do contract COVID-19, that they don't have as big of an immune response. And they're thinking that because adults and older people have been exposed to so many different things, that their immune response is much larger than, say, a child's. And so that is actually a negative thing for the virus and how the virus interacts. It kind of becomes stronger the stronger your immune response is. So he was saying how this was a couple weeks ago, but there weren't any information on any Mito kids or adults actually contracting this virus. So they don't really know how they're going to respond to it. They're hoping it's not going to be severe, but I think the scary thing is, they just don't know. So when we walk around now, the flu is scary, but COVID-19, just seems so much more life and death type of a situation. I mean, Troy's had the flu one time before, and we spent a week in the hospital. And I think it's just our stressful season is now extended, and we don't know how long that's going to last. For us, we're looking at not until there's a vaccine. I mean, even if the cases lessen and things like that, it's still the fact that it is so contagious, and if Troy contracts it, it could be a very serious situation. And so we have to wait to go back to any sort of normal life, which it'll never go back to fully normal, but until there's a vaccine, so that we know if he did contract it, that hopefully, with the vaccine, it wouldn't be as strong as if there, wasn't a vaccine and he wasn't vaccinated. So it's just definitely, we feel very much on lockdown. Oh, and the grocery thing, although I keep, I'm long-winded here today, but wiping down all of our groceries. I mean, whoever thought you would be doing that? I mean, we have Deliveries because none of us go to the store because we can't expose anyone that lives in this household. And so, we have Costco delivering, we have Vaughn's delivering, and that is like, first of all, the highlight, because we're, oh my gosh, look at all this food. We've got all these fun things. We're going to cook dinner and blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you spend 20 minutes with the Clorox wipes out there on the doorstep, wiping everything down, and we've got gloves and this and that. And it's like, whoever thought you would be doing that thing? So there's
I'm glad you brought up the grocery thing again, because I wanted to point something out too. When we had Angie, I ordered all of our groceries. Every once in a while we'll go to the store, but for the most part, I just couldn't. We couldn't. Angie was always with me, and it was really hard to go and expose her to all these different people.
Mm-hmm.
But I have been to the grocery store more times during COVID than I have probably in the last 3 years. The main reason, well, the beginning reason was because I couldn't get an order in.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people are using it, which I think is amazing, but we're just not in a society that it's set up to service so many people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I did try Instacart for the first time. Worst experience I've ever had.
No.
I probably like 50% of my stuff was wrong, which I understand. The grocery stores are not stocked. I get that it's really hard, and I'm totally fine if you want to replace an item. I just would really appreciate it if it was the same amount as the other items. Like, we tried to get ground turkey, and I ordered like a 48-ounce pack, and I got like 16 ounces. I'm like, I appreciate you delivering my groceries. I appreciate you going out there and doing all this, but it would be awesome to have the same thing. Like, give me at least a couple packages of turkey. Like,
yeah.
But so in order to fix everything, I had to actually go to the grocery store anyways.
Uh-huh.
And the store that I went to, I thought you couldn't bring your own bags. So I left and I went into the store to shop, and they didn't have bags either. So I was like, how am I supposed to get all my stuff home? So the grocery clerk, the one that was ringing up all my items, she's like, did you want to borrow our basket? What else am I going to do? I can't carry it.
That's funny. Yeah, actually, in the beginning, we were really concerned because we could never get a time for delivery, and we were really stressed out. Thankfully, we had family in the beginning that was actually going to the grocery store for us. But it's definitely calmed down a little bit. We usually do Costco and Bonds, and there's times every day or the next day, and thankfully they've been amazing, just amazing. And we we have had a couple times though, like you said, where I ordered, I don't even know, like the huge value pack of chicken thighs to do like baked chicken, and it came with like a little tiny one that would have just fed like me.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
and but the cool thing about Costco is they have where you can actually mark, I think Vons does too, where it'll say like replacement, and you give notes, or you say if they don't have it, because the Costco people actually text you and they tell you like, oh, hey, this is out, but do you want this? And one time we wanted something and it was like she wanted to replace it with something that was not even close to the same thing, but they just texted. And so
Yeah.
it's pretty amazing. They're definitely stepping up their game now that it's so many people are needing this service. So it's a lot easier now. But toilet paper, it's still, everybody's still out of toilet paper.
Yeah, and paper towels, it's
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
Our Costco experience was they got everything right, but they did not text us and they did not tell us it was delivered. So
Oh, uh-oh.
it sat outside all night
Oh
because we didn't
no.
know we got it.
Oh no. Wow.
Yeah. So there's definitely it's a 50-50 chance of good to bad experience. um so there's things like that are different. We can't get the same tools that we've used in the past because them, which there's nothing wrong with that. It just we just all have to remember to thank all those people that are doing all of that. And it is hard for them too if they've been doing this for a couple years, doing all this, like this is their job. If they're shoppers for you, just bear with them. They're
Oh,
trying.
absolutely.
I get that too. I think it's more funny now. It was stressful at the moment,
Yeah.
but it's funny. Like of course I can have 10 things of pasta sauce. Like not that I can eat it, but it's okay.
Yeah, definitely. No, we're
But
always, they usually deliver during the day and we're always at the windows like, thank you, thank you.
yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure like and people are thankful for that. They are thankful to get your thanks. Because this isn't just one person or one family's fight anymore. It's everyone. We're all in this.
Yeah.
So as far as like the future, like you were saying, for Mito families, this isn't really going to go away. We obviously don't know what the future does hold, but we're preparing. Well, the families that I know are preparing for the worst, and that means not being able to go to the park or not being able to sit at the beach, to stay home, to be away from people, to not have that social interaction. And that in itself is hard because we know that when you have Mito, your life, unfortunately, to be like blatant about it, is not as long as someone without Mito.
Mhm.
And I know that if Angie were here, I would be so frustrated because I want her to experience everything and I want her to have as normal of a life as I can give her safely.
Yeah.
I know that towards the end, when she was alive, we had a really like weather. Just it was raining all the time. It was cold outside. Like I couldn't take her anywhere. And it was so frustrating. We were stuck inside our house. And so I can remember that and think like, God, I feel bad for all of the families that are terrified to go outside and that they're going to continue to be terrified to go outside. And also just the social interaction with your own family.
Oh, yeah.
I think about like my sister and her family, and I haven't seen. I used to pick up my nephew almost every Friday from school to spend time with him, and he helped me be close to him when I didn't have Angie, and it's so hard to not see them. And this isn't going to go away. I might be working from home, but my husband isn't. And we have to be careful of who he is in contact with. So it sucks for Mito families, it sucks for families who don't have Mito, because you're just scared and you don't know. And future, I mean, regardless of the future, no one can tell us what's going to happen. But I think having this Mito experience, I am definitely a lot more scared and apprehensive about what I do or who I see or who I can spend time with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know it's funny because my husband and I have been married for a couple of years now. And before this, obviously, he didn't have the Mito experience. And, you know, everybody asked me, it's like, well, have you always been this way about germs? Have you always, you know, when I used to teach, my kids are like, oh, well, she's kind of like a germophobic, but it's not really her fault. But it's like, you know, once you experience this, like bringing my husband into this, and now, you know, he can't touch a handle or a, you know, anything without thinking, oh my gosh, and it ruins you from not microscopically looking at everything that you touch and everybody around, and you hug somebody, you hear their voice if they're a little sick, or, you know, all these different things. You just have this heightened awareness, and you can't turn it off. It's just always there. And, you know, this situation just makes it a little scarier because we are seeing the death toll and, you know, how this is affecting people. And so it definitely makes this time a little stressful. I know there are, you know, I hear a lot about, you see on social media, all the good things. Everybody's starting to slow down, spending more time with your family and doing those types of things, which is, of course, amazing and wonderful. But it is a stressful time for families that have these medically fragile children. It's just a whole nother level that, you know, you don't want to experience, because you already experience a level that other people don't experience. So it makes it hard. And the few things that you can do with your children is, you know, completely taken away, and for so much longer than the regular population. So it's a stressful time, but, you know, it's something that we get through. We do the best we can, and we get through day by day. I keep telling my husband, I'm like, well, you'd like to retire early. This is what retirement would be like. He's like, well, not so much. We'd be able to go do things. So, you know, it's hard, but, you know, it's not something that we can't handle. I mean,
Yeah.
so
You know, the things that we have to be grateful for are, like, imagine if this was 10, 15 years ago. We have a lot more capabilities now than we did then. I know, at least, I know a lot of people are utilizing Zoom and Facebook Messenger for video chats, and I know it's not the same, but at least that's one way to socialize, or maybe have like a wine party or lunch with a friend. And I know it's not them being with you, but you can still be face to face. And that's one thing that we did a lot of when Angie was alive. We have a Facebook portal, and all the time, especially to call the grandparents, like they wanted to see her, and they live in another state, so that was how they were able to interact. And it's hard when you have a toddler, especially one that it is active, who doesn't have Mito, or who has just a regular little 3-year-old like my nephew. Like, I would love to play with him, but it's a little hard over like a video chat. He's just showing me his boogers and and just saying hi over and over again. And then it's cute because he'll take me with him, but then I'm staring up at the ceiling the whole time.
Yeah, that's what Troy does with FaceTime with my parents.
Yeah, but you know, you just have to step outside the box. You got to be inventive. You got to figure out what you can do to take up time during the day. And like you said, families are spending a lot more time together, which I hope that through this, I mean, I know there's the positive side that we're bringing out is spending time with your family. Mm-hmm. I know that there's also the opposite of that. And this is really hard for a lot of people. with depression or not having work, or even children who really need school to be able to maybe get away from a hard situation at home. So there's going to be both sides. There's the positive, there's definitely the negative. Reach out to your family and friends, even if you think that they're okay, reach out anyways, because I'm sure it's hard for people to verbalize if they're having a hard time. And that's okay. It's okay to have a hard time.
Absolutely.
It's extremely hard when you get into this at first, because your life is turned upside down. All the things that you're used to are no longer there. You can't just go get a cup of coffee anymore. And you can't just go like you were saying earlier, you can't just go for a walk. You have to avoid people. Going back to when we were talking about the people that help with groceries and deliveries and things like that, you need to take a step back and know everyone is in the same situation, and do whatever you can to make this a positive experience for others and for yourself, because you have to have your own sanity. Even if that's like me right now, I put my makeup on for myself today.
Exactly.
I don't thank you. I haven't done my makeup since we did in quarantine, and it just wasn't important. And I thought about it this morning, and I was like, well, I'm not dressed up myself. What's the point? So I might as well. I'm a good reason, right?
And it's funny too, because I've noticed that my husband and I did that virtual run, and he did 32 miles and I did 20, and we did a same loop around our neighborhood. And so, spending like 4 or 5 hours doing that, everybody is really friendly. And we run generally, at least a few times a week. And, sometimes people would say hi or not, but now with everybody in quarantine, even people with masks on are just, hi, have a great day. Everybody is just really trying to reach out and just be super friendly. I'm sure a lot of people are like, hey, didn't you just pass us like 5 times?
You're like counting your laps for you. They bring out like a water station.
But I do notice that people are extremely, friendly right now. And I think that that's a good thing. People are wanting to share the love because they know that, I read this thing that said, we're not all necessarily in the same boat, because we do have different circumstances, whether it's financial or whatever your situation is, but we're all in the same storm. We're all, dealing with it in that sense, in the bigger picture. But yeah, so I think people are a little bit more sympathetic and just bringing that friendly side out a little bit more to bring some cheer in this situation. So that's always nice to see.
Yeah. I when I went for a run, there was a dad with his little girl, and I went to move out of the way deep on the street so that I wasn't near them. And they both have little masks on, and she's holding her baby, and he's holding her little baby stroller, and it's like, happy quarantine. Like, happy quarantine. So cute.
Yeah.
And the little girl was trying to say it, and she was maybe 3 years old, and she's like, nah, 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 nah.
Yeah, that's a big word.
It was cute. But I think maybe that's a good place to end the podcast. We talked about how things are the same for Mito families, how they might be different, and possibly what we have to look for in the future, and hopefully as scary as we're expecting it to be. There could be a resurgence, and until we get a vaccine for this, it's just going to have to be extra careful, and to remember, love thy neighbor. Just
from a distance,
be positive. Yes, from a 6 foot distance and a face mask. Just try to stay positive. Do what you can to bring happiness and positivity to you, and in turn that will help others. So again, if you if you have any questions or if you have any ideas for a podcast, please reach out to us at mitopodcast@gmail.com. You can find all our podcasts on mitopodcast.com. And I think that's it. Thank you for listening in.
Yeah, and happy quarantine.
Happy quarantine.